Alright, anatomy guys, welcome back. This is going to be Novid workshop series video number 7, and we're basically past the duodenum at this point. Now, you know we're following along in the series, and I hope this is going to be beneficial to you. I'm just crossing my fingers. I'm also hoping you guys watch it because, I don't know, sometimes we get on this Novid thing and we feel like we're on break. We're not on break, so we got to work hard. So check out all the videos in the series. You might have to go back and watch them twice. But this is going to be Novid Workshop Series 7. It's called Novid because we're hoping for no Corona-19 here. Novid. I thought it was catchy. Maybe it's not. But that's what we're calling this series of videos on digestion. Alright, so I'm out here in my shop. I got my buddy Dak with me. And we are hanging out and we are checking out what's going on past the duodenum. Now we're going to start off this video, which should be pretty short, on a myth. And the myth is that if you swallow gum, that it stays in your body for something like 7 years. And after 7 years, I don't know what the myth is that happens to it. You guys know that that's a myth. You know it's a myth. Now what happens is you swallow gum, it comes out with the rest of the stuff that's surrounding it. Okay, there's not a lot in gum. If you chew the sugars out, which are like carbohydrates, chew the sugars out, and it's just a mass of goo, if you will, with no sugar in it anymore, and you swallow it. Just check your bowel movements, okay? Something like 18 hours after you swallow it, it's probably going to come out of your body. That's on average, because some of you are not average. All right, I don't want to get too personal here. Some of you are way longer than 18 hours, and you know that. All right, we're a little constipated, aren't we? Sometimes. All right, but something like average 18 hours from mouth to anus. But what's not a myth, and we're getting really gross here, corn. Now, all of you know this. You're supposed to chew your food 30 times before you swallow it. So you're at dinner, you put a fork full of food in there, 30 times to increase surface area before you swallow it. So many people don't do that, especially you football players. It's like you get 2 bites, and then you swallow. Now, let's say you take a big old bite of corn, and you swallow corn after chewing it twice, and you don't break it down mechanically. All right? I don't want to get too personal, but many times, 18 hours later, it shows up again. And it looks like it looked when it went in. You might have to ask the question, what's going on there? Why isn't corn breaking down? Well, corn has a lot of something called cellulose in it. Cellulose. Cellulose is a very strong substance. It's a sugar. All right? Grass has a lot of cellulose in it. If you ever sit around, and you got a good time to do this now because we're supposed to be isolated. You're not supposed to be around other people, but you can be around cows. So go out to a cow field and watch the cows as they chew up grass that has a lot of cellulose in it. And they're going to chew it up, they're going to swallow it down, and then eventually you're going to see something come back up. They're going to start chewing something they didn't just eat. All right, it's called chewing the cud. Try not to cough. I'm sorry about coughing. They're going to chew the cud. Now, in other words, they are ruminants. They have many sections of their stomach because the main food that they eat, which is grass, has a lot of cellulose, and cellulose is notoriously hard to break down unless you chew the snot out of it. All right, you got to break down the cell walls of cellulose. Okay, so the cow will have to chew the cud in order to break down the nutrients that's found in that grass. Well, guess what corn is? Corn is actually a member of the grass family. And we got a bunch of different grasses. We got super short Bermuda grass. We got the longer Kentucky fescue grass. Believe it or not, corn is a member of the grass family. And so that corn that you eat, that corn kernel, it's loaded in cellulose. So if you don't break it down mechanically so that your enzymes can break it down, essentially it will show up a lot like it went in. All right, so that's not a myth. That's how that happens. But let's go on to this video. And let's check this out. Now, we are essentially past the duodenum. We're past the duodenum. All right, here it is. Duodenum is this section right here. It's short, it has the pancreas on it. It's the first section of the small intestines. But at this point, after duodenum, things get pretty simple because now we're going to the rest of the intestines. I don't know if you can see or not, but the duodenum kind of plugs in right here and it dives out right here. Now all of these, this part in the middle, not this is small intestines. But you can see up here the large intestines. Now, where is this in the body? please don't do this, anatomy students. I don't know how low the video is going, but don't put your hand right here and say my stomach hurts, because your stomach is not even here. Your stomach is way up here, right under the diaphragm. I'm basically putting my hand right above my stomach now. Most of that intestinal pain you feel, the discomfort, most of it's intestinal. It's not a stomach thing. So we're talking intestines. Now we're going to the rest of the small intestines. First section of the small intestines, the duodenum. The second section is the jejunum. And the third section is the ileum. The ileum. So let's get out our model so we can just anatomically see this. We got the duodenum. It's curved. Then we have a very long jejunum. We're going to put them on the board here in a second to see the spelling. It's very long. And what's the function of the jejunum? You should know it primarily absorption, because we have the magic blender in the duodenum, break things chemically down, super small. Now we want to absorb it. So we're absorbing it into the bloodstream from the jejunum. And then at some undefined point, there's not some line that says you're no longer jejunum, now you're ileum. At some undefined point, we start the ileum. The longest section of the small intestines is the ileum. Its job also is absorption. Fluids, nutrients, all those things are absorbed straight into the bloodstream from your ileum and your jejunum. So if you get a question on your test, which you likely will, what are the main functions of the jejunum and the ileum, you should say absorption. Now we're absorbing, we got things super small, we're absorbing it into the blood. Now the blood can carry those nutrients all around your body, like your brain, and feed your brain the nutrients that you broke down, like sugars, okay, like proteins, like things like that. Then we're going to join in this section. I don't know if you can see a difference in diameter here, but small intestines leads to the large intestines, and you have this appendix that's hanging off. And for a lot of years, doctors didn't know why we had an appendix. And that the colon, which is the large intestines, is also called the colon. The first section goes up on the right side of your body, and it's called the ascending colon. And then you have a part that goes across the top, and it's called the transverse colon. And then you have a part that goes down. And if you have an ascending, but then you have a part that goes down, you know what the, excuse me, the part that goes down is called the descending colon. This model may be better for that. All right, so here we have the union of the ileum, which is the part of your small intestines encased by your pelvic bones, your iliac bones. They're going to join in with the large intestines, otherwise called the what? Come on, I gotta hear it. The what? Yes, that's right, the colon. That's right here, the colon, which is large intestines. And you're going to join into the sphincter called the ileocecal sphincter. The ileocecal sphincter, because this is the cecum of the large intestines, the blind turn. Now, on the back of the blind turn, and if you look at it, if I can get this back on, that is, if you look at it, the small intestines joins in here, but then it almost has a dead end. That's the cecum of the large, and the cecum, C-E-C-U-M. But on the back of that, you're going to have this little structure that's called the vermiform appendix. And the word vermiform means worm-like. And why is it called worm-like? It's because it looks like a worm. It looks like an earthworm in the human body. The vermiform appendix, the worm-like appendix. All right. Now, the appendix has a function, according to doctors, of kind of sequestering bacteria that your body needs to keep them from dying in times of fevers. For example, your body fever, if you have a fever and the temperature of your body goes up to 102, 103, then the bacteria, the beneficial bacteria that are loading in your gut right now, they normally die, they get cooked out. But the appendix has a way of capturing a portion of those bacteria, like a sampling of those bacteria, keeping them from getting hot. I don't know how you would do this, but it protects it. And then once your fever is over, those bacteria are released back into the colon and the small intestines, and they repopulate. They repopulate the area to help you do things, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But if it's causing trouble, like it's becoming inflamed many times, the doctors sometimes say, let's just go ahead and take it out, because its function is, it's good, but it's not necessarily vital. All right, so we have the small intestines, leads to the large intestines, the ascending colon, the transverse colon, the descending colon, and then this S-shaped part in the back is called the sigmoid colon, the sigmoid colon. I think of Sigmund Freud, the psychoanalyst, and it reminds me of sigmoid, the sigmoid colon. The straight section is called the rectum. After that, you have two sphincters that we're going to get to, the internal anal sphincter and the external anal sphincter, and then you've got the toilet. Okay, so we're basically done at that point. Now, your intestines anatomically are kind of like that. If I ask you the pathway of food, you'd say duodenum to jejunum to ileum to the ileocecal sphincter into the colon, the ascending colon, then the transverse colon, the descending colon, and the sigmoid colon, and then the rectum, and then you have two sphincters at the end. Anatomically, it's essentially what you're looking at. Now, biochemically, this is probably an area you need to study them a lot, and I'm talking about the whole of biochemistry, like the gastric 5 and the pancreatic 5 and the hormones associated with digestion. But biochemically, there's not a whole lot going on here. All right, so let's get to the written part. Let's get to the written part. Let's figure out what you need to know for the intestines. I got to get to my page because I left my page. Small and large intestines. Video number 7. One of the things I want you to know about is the order of intestines. We're going to write them down. We're talking small intestines, first section, the duodenum. The duodenum, after a short stretch, it leads to the jejunum. I think there's a line in the movie, The Water Boy. I don't think I ever saw it, but the guy says, he punched me in my jejunum. Some of you may know it from that line in that movie. Okay, the jejunum is going to lead to the ileum, the longest section of the small intestines. These two together, they're absorbing. Not a lot of biochemistry. We'll get to it here in a second. These two absorbing many of the nutrients that the duodenum broke down. Now, that's going to lead to, let me jump over here, the ileocecal sphincter. A sphincter is a band of muscle. The ileocecal sphincter joins the ileum to the cecum of the large intestines, and it regulates movements from the small intestines to the large intestines. Okay, at this point, you're going to join the ascending colon at an area that is called the cecum of the ascending colon. All this is in your book. I'm going to check it out. Then you're going to go to the transverse colon. Then you're going to keep on going, and you're going to go to the, if you have the ascending, you have the descending colon. Then you're going to go to the hardest one to remember, the sigmoid colon. Then you're going to move to the rectum. It's called the rectum because it's straight, and the word rect means straight. Okay, the rect means straight. If we have a conversation and we have a serious conversation, I go right to the point, then what kind of conversation are we having? We're having a direct conversation. Okay, if you erect something, you erect a building or something, you straighten it out. The muscles in your body right here are called the Rectus Abdominis because they go straight. They call them a 6-pack, but it's more like an 8-pack anatomically. It's like an 8-pack. All right, rectum, enough of that. But then you're going to get to the two sphincters. You're going to have this sphincter called the internal, I just misspelled it, the internal anal sphincter and the external anal sphincter. Okay, at that point, if you want to put another one out, you're basically looking at the toilet. That's why this is a crappy lesson series, because that was my joke for the day. Did you get it? This is what's next. The toilet is what's after this. Okay, so anatomically, that's what we're looking at as far as small and large intestines go. Now, function-wise, the basic, I don't want to insult your intelligence, but the ACEs break down the OSes. If it ends in OSE, it's broken down by an ASE. All right? So if you have a sugar, say sucrose, that you've broken down to the level of sucrose from a carbohydrate, then what breaks it down? Something called sucrase. Sucrase breaks down sucrose. If you have dextrose, then dextrase, your body naturally makes it, breaks down dextrose. Glucose, fructose, galactose, dextrose, all those sugars are broken down by their corresponding enzyme, which is going to end in ACE. In other words, you have a simple sugar, and it's called, in our diet, it's called lactose. We have lactose. We get it from milk products. We get it from dairy products, cheeses and milks and all those things. Now, naturally, you're supposed to make an enzyme. Take a wild guess what it's called. Good. 4 people said it just now. Yes, lactase. You're supposed to make lactase. But if your body does not naturally produce lactase that will help you break down lactose, the milk sugar, then you are what we call lactose intolerant. All right, so you have a lot of gas, you have a lot of issues breaking down that because bacteria have to go in there and do the job that your enzymes are supposed to do. By the way, bacteria in your gut, they're supposed to be there. There's a lot of beneficial ones that are supposed to be there. So general rules speaking, your ACE is going to break down your OSes biochemically for the rest of the way out. Which leads me to the question, what is the purpose of the colon? You know that you're supposed to absorb in the small intestines, break down in the duodenum, but absorb in jejunum and ileum. But essentially, what is the purpose of the colon, the large intestines? 2 major purposes. 1, absorb any more water that's left in there. That's kind of gross, but that's what it does. Additionally, it's a storage place for fecal material. Because you get to decide whether or not you want to go to the bathroom at certain points, so you have to have a storage place. And the colon serves as a storage place. It also takes some of that water out. And that's the purpose of your colon. All right, so here's where we are at this point. Now, last thing on this, there are stretch receptors located in your colon that tell you to what degree you have to use the restroom to go defecate. All right, so there's stretchers. Let's say you eat, I don't know, let's say you go out to a place I really want to go to. It's in Market Square. They're supposed to have the best hamburgers everywhere. I just lost the name of it. Stock and Barrel or something like that. Never been there, but it's highly recommended. Let's say we go eat a super good hamburger. All right, let's say it was so good we eat 2 of them. So all that food is going to go down there. Essentially, after about 16 hours, you're going to enter the large intestines. That food is going to go across here. It's not food at this point. We're talking fecal material at this point. And let's go down here. It should rest right here at the end of your sigmoid colon. It should not be in the rectum at this point. Now, more is going to come down, and it's going to stretch the receptors further and further up your colon the more that comes down. Now, if you're stretching receptors essentially right here, then it sends a signal to your brain. It kind of says, you know, I could go to the bathroom if I wanted to. All right? Not that bad a thing, all right? That's a good sign. But then you have receptors up here, and if these stretchers get stretched, it sends a different signal to your brain. And that signal is, I really need to think about going to the bathroom and burning some of my freebies. Like your free 5 points for not using your free pass to the restroom. You could think about it right here. But if you ate 2 of those burgers and they keep coming down and building up and they stretch receptors here, this is the kind of thing where you kind of go, I can wait 10 minutes. I can wait 10 minutes. But then you have these crazy receptors. This gets really gross, so if you don't want to hear this, turn the video off at this point. But these receptors are somewhere right here in the middle of the transverse colon. And if these receptors get stretched by the stretching of that colon, that large intestine, right there in the transverse section, it sends a signal to your brain that says, flush. Yes, you got it. Flush. In other words, very strong peristaltic waves start forcing, whether you want it or not, to happen. It's called the defecation reflex, to start forcing things out to the toilet, or I don't know where's it going, but hopefully in a toilet somewhere. Now, some of you might be smiling because you go, yeah, I remember when I got there before. I remember that, and that was a bad point in your life, but it's coming out if you don't take care of your colon. Defecation reflex, pretty awesome thing, pretty disgusting thing, but now we're done with the small and large intestines. Now my channel should be made public right now, and if you like this video, then go ahead and hit the like button, and then click this box that's going to show up right here for my next video. I'm just kidding, I don't really know how to do that. I've just always wanted to say that, so no box is going to show up. Just wanted to say it. You guys have a wonderful day. This is Mr. V checking out from his workshop.